Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Broad Street Boys. Today we have a special episode where we're doing March Madness brackets. Oh my gosh.
Woohoo!
Greatest time of the year. We're back with Ty. There's no Caleb today. Caleb doesn't know anything about college basketball. We love him. Love you, buddy, but you have no idea.
Had to bring in the expert.
The expert is here,
The
and
expert
we're going into bracketology apparently. So here we go. We're gonna go region by region, and we're gonna do our upset picks, our sleepers, our frauds, and then our locks. And then we're gonna go through our final four, and that'll be it. This is probably gonna be a long one, so buckle up. Here we go. We're gonna start with the East, West, South, Midwest. Yeah. So starting with the East, this is the one with UConn in it. Let's just start with the locks.
I think UConn had maybe the easiest draw out of them all.
Yeah.
Especially in this part of the bracket, I think there's a lot of teams that are just not as good as UConn. I really don't see any way that they don't make the Final Four. That can be clipped, but I think it's a pretty, very good possibility they make the Final Four.
Yeah, their part is not hard because, second round it's going to be either FAU or Northwestern. And we're about to talk about FAU because they're one of them, if you could guess. So they're definitely going to do that.
I think, honestly, personally in my bracket, I have Auburn making it to the Sweet 16, and I think that might be the hardest game they have in the whole thing part of the tournament until the Final Four.
Auburn is going in hotter than pretty much everybody else.
And we watched that Auburn game. They looked nasty.
They made Florida look slow, and Florida plays quick. So they
shut down Florida.
They almost I saw a TikTok and someone say this. They look like the Auburn team that went to the Final Four.
Yeah, they look very similar.
It's like the exact same team, exact same layout.
Yeah.
I would say Auburn is definitely a lock to make a Sweet 16.
I agree.
I think they're totally making that.
I really don't like San Diego State either.
No, exactly.
I have them winning the first round because I also don't really like UAB.
Yeah.
But I think Auburn's a pretty easy road to the Sweet 16 until they probably play UConn.
And then I would say the last lock to probably make the Sweet 16 maybe is Iowa State.
I agree.
But Iowa State, Drake could be a good game.
Yes.
And Iowa State, Wazoo could also be a good game.
Yes.
So I would say those are our three locks. Now to make the better picks, I would say let's do some frauds in this first, and then we'll do sleepers.
Yes.
Everyone wants to hear the sleeper, but the frauds in here,
there's some big ones.
You can go first because I'll bounce off.
Okay, so my first fraud, this might be a hot take. I really don't like Illinois. I think their offense is amazing.
Yeah, and Terrence Shannon is awesome.
Is awesome. I agree, but at the same time, their defense is abysmal.
In the 200s.
It's in the 250s for scoring defense.
Yeah.
And I've just seen time and time again, if you don't have a good, you don't need a good defense, but if you don't have a competent defense, which we're talking about in the 200s, that's horrendous.
I agree. And we can actually take someone from last year, as in Alabama.
Yeah.
And we thought was ridiculous, and they were so good on offense, but not a great defense. And then they lost in the second round.
Yeah.
First round. That's crazy.
Because you got to think, if your offense is great, that's one thing, but if you get a team that can score with you.
Yeah.
Most of the games are going to go shootouts, which is not in your favor if you're the top seed.
Especially if you're playing, 4 games in 6 days or whatever it is. Yeah.
And you also think they ended the latest out of anyone in college basketball, so they have the least time to prepare for this. And even though they won the tournament, they did play Wisconsin in the final, which is
Wisconsin's good.
Wisconsin's good. We'll obviously get into Wisconsin. Yeah. But I'm not completely impressed they beat Wisconsin.
I'm actually with you. I would say another fraud. Duquesne shouldn't be an 11 seed. Oh my God, I think we can all agree on that. They're 83rd in Ken Palm, or they're in the 80s, aren't they? For Ken Palm,
yeah, they're very.
They're not
up there.
They're not close. And Duquesne. Honestly, congratulations to Duquesne, the first time ever making it, or first time in years. But you're probably going to get bounced.
And I'm really like BYU this year, so I just don't see a world where they lose to Duquesne.
I agree. And that actually leads us. So honestly, in this region, there's not many frauds. There's just
we missed one. It's FAU.
Oh, FAU. Sorry, FAU is one of the biggest frauds I've ever seen.
Same thing with Duquesne. It's they should have been a bubble team. There's no way
they should be in the first 4.
This team should be an 8 seed.
No,
and although they play Northwestern, which I think will be a good game, and they could win that. I love both
Bill Bui's awesome.
He's my favorite.
I might just pick him because of his name.
I think
that's
I
why
literally did. I love him.
But yeah, FAU is a huge. They just lost to Temple, and Temple was the 11th seed. Anyone in that American conference is low key fraudish, right to me. So but other than those, like I'm going to say this again, but I feel like compared to the other regions, there's less frauds in this region. I think there's more sleepers in this region. Than anything, because you got. You can go in on BYU because you're a big BYU guy.
I do like BYU. I think their offense is super different and just different looks, and the tournament's great. Because if you think about all these games are super close together, they don't really have time to prep how they would in the regular season.
Right.
So looking at BYU, their defense isn't the best by any means, but who they're playing, they play Duquesne, who they're going to win. I think they're going to win against Duquesne. And then they play Illinois, who we just did discuss. Although Illinois does have a better offense than them, BYU also has a great offense, and their defense is not great, but it's significantly better than what we've seen from Illinois.
It's good enough.
And if you look at that Wisconsin game, it was 93-87. That's the highest scoring game maybe I've ever seen in college basketball. And that just does not instill confidence in me that they have the longevity. You think about you got to win 6 games to win a natty.
That's great.
I think 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So if you do not have a consistent defense, there's no way you can consistently win games on a day-to-day basis.
There's just no. And funny, you brought this point to me while we were in the car about 30 minutes ago, and the first thing that came to my head when you described a unique offense is Wofford from years ago.
Yeah.
And we saw how good Wofford was with
just a different defense, different offense,
different defense. It's just unique, and no one's seen it before.
Yeah.
So the more I think about it, the more I like that pick. I would say a sleeper, and we were talking about this again off camera. Wazoo. I don't know why everyone's
on Drake right now, and immediately that puts alarms in my head.
Yeah.
Especially when everyone's picking an upset, unless there's solid evidence behind it, which there is. I know, Drake has a great program.
Right.
They have Tucker DeVries, who's the GOAT.
So good
of their conference.
He's awesome.
And I think his dad coaches the team, which is also a great story.
Yeah.
But I think people look at the story more than the team.
Yeah.
And I think Wazoo is a very they're a good team. I don't know why they don't talk about Wazoo more. It's all Drake right now, and not Wazoo, anything about Wazoo.
Wazoo went on a streak where they beat Colorado, who's a bubble team.
Yeah. They beat Arizona twice,
which is a big deal, home and away. I don't really know why people are hopping off of the Wazoo train. I really don't get it. And then I would say another one, low key. I've seen a lot of these, but Yale. Yale.
That's crazy.
Yale.
It's got to be the Ivy League upsets because we saw Princeton pretty recently.
Yes.
But I don't know. Yale literally. This shouldn't have been. I actually watched the Brown Yale game.
Yeah.
On my phone, and I was in shock of how fumbled the bag Brown did. They should not be here. I don't even think that's
so funny.
Maybe if they were playing Alabama, we'll get to the 4-13 Alabama game in a bit. But I think Auburn's too consistent of a team to lose. I think the only team we haven't talked about is Iowa State.
Iowa State is. I don't know why no one's talking about Iowa State either.
So it's either nobody talks about them or that's the only thing they talk about.
Yeah,
because I've seen a few brackets where they get bounced, and I've seen a few brackets where they win the
whole thing. Yeah,
and we all know Iowa State's defense is ridiculous. We all seen that, but it's another thing where I just love teams with balance, and I don't think their offense holds up to what their defense does, which. If you look at their previous records, it's a lot of low-scoring games, and they don't get over a good amount of points a lot of the time, which scares me a lot.
And the funny thing is, I said this to you before, but Iowa State to me gives me Houston vibes from last year.
Yes,
except they can score a little better. Yeah. That's really all I can think about. Because I mean, you saw what they did to Houston in the conference championship. Yeah, blew them out of the state. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see.
And they just had a close game against BYU a few weeks ago.
Yeah, which
I do like BYU, and I actually have them in my bracket rematching BYU, which would be a great.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see. I do have BYU winning that game.
Yeah.
But that's a little bit of my sleeper.
Yeah.
For this.
What's that? The Sweet 16?
That's a Sweet 16.
Yeah.
So I have them getting bounced in the Sweet 16. I could see them getting to UConn, but I don't know if they're getting through UConn. I'm going to be honest.
I don't know if anyone's beating UConn.
And even if UConn didn't get there, I think Auburn gets there. I think Auburn's a great matchup against them too.
Yeah, because Auburn plays so well. It's impressive.
It's a problem.
It's a problem. Okay, so our next one, we're gonna do the South. So this is the one with Houston. If you're looking at your bracket right now,
No,
this one is the most interesting, or one of the most interesting.
This one is giving me headaches for since it's been drawn.
Like this one, we're gonna talk about for at least 20 minutes.
Yeah, because it's a big one.
Because you can go through every single matchup and be like this, and this type of thing. So we're just gonna start with the locks. Who do you have as a lock? Because
I don't think there's any locks.
There's no locks.
I think genuinely the only lock. I don't even think this is a lock either. Is Kentucky over Oakland? Because I don't really think Oakland's that good.
Yeah, I agree. And
we could go into Kentucky in a bit, but I think they have genuinely the same problem as Illinois.
Yeah,
which
and
scares me a lot.
We'll go into that. So we're gonna say no locks, even though Houston is in that, and Houston to me is very similar to Houston of last year.
Yeah,
that they just
I would say Houston this year is better than Houston from last year.
Me too.
But at the same time,
it's a little too similar.
I would say the 1 versus 16 versus Longwood is a lock, but I also think they got the best 16 seed out of all 4 of them.
Yeah,
Longwood's a decent 16 seed.
Yeah, it's not bad.
So if anything if there was going to be a 1 versus 16 upset, it's going to be this game.
Yeah, and isn't this the first time Longwood's ever gone?
Yeah,
and that
which also scares me.
Yeah. So and now we're just gonna do sleepers for this one.
I think there's a bunch.
Yeah, JMU.
Yeah, I mean I can talk about JMU for hours.
Years, yeah. But we'll do a little bit. We are from JMU.
Yeah, so a little bit biased.
But we have the what is it?
Top 10 scoring offense
with Terrence Edwards leading the way, and we saw against Arkansas State if the front 3 guys don't score, then we can still rebound.
We have so much depth. We have a good 7-8 man rotation that are about, other than Terrence Edwards, are about the same level. So we have guys rotating in all the time that are fresh and can put out good numbers.
Byington has like an 8-man rotation going.
Yeah, it's it's a strong 8-man rotation.
Yeah, like they're solid. Like we think they're gonna beat Wisconsin.
I would say it's gonna be a great matchup. Yeah. I think if anyone was going to beat Wisconsin, it's us.
It's us.
Out of the 12 seeds, and I really like the draw of Wisconsin due to the fact that they lost the latest out of any team, and we've had so much rest.
Yeah, and we have a guy on the inside, Daniel.
Yeah,
he was talking to TJ Biggerstaff, and he said that they're already past so if you guys don't know that the Sun Belt ended not last Tuesday, the Tuesday before.
Yeah, so we've had
now 2 weeks. 2 weeks on the dot. 2 weeks.
Yeah. So you gotta think they're resting, they're recovering right now. They're probably not planning for us yet, and we've had so much time to rest, and now we can plan this whole week.
And Daniel said that they're already they've been practicing for the past 3-4 days.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're just sitting on their ass doing nothing. Like they're practicing right now.
Yeah. And I can't say this about any other team. I've just watched this JMU team in person a lot, and I can just say they're so hungry. Like this team is so different than the previous years I've seen.
Something's up where everyone's flying around on defense.
The chemistry is great. Like if any team was gonna upset a 5 seed, I think it's JMU this year.
JMU and I was talking to a bunch of my friends about this.
Yeah,
JMU and Wisconsin are quite literally the opposite teams. Complete. Like JMU takes a lot of threes.
Yeah.
And defends pretty well against 3. Wisconsin doesn't take any threes.
Slow.
And are incredibly slow and don't.
It's going to come down to whether JMU can get Wisconsin out of that slow mindset and put them in the game they want to play.
If we put them in a shootout,
I agree.
Easy.
I completely agree.
Easy.
And we saw that with Illinois.
Yeah. And we actually did that to Arkansas State. Arkansas State wanted to be slow.
Yeah, and we just completely put them out of their comfort zone.
Ran them out of the stadium.
So
if you look at the whole graph stuff, which I love, it's a great visual. Yeah. You will see JMU's here, Wisconsin's here. Or JMU's here, Wisconsin's here. Or it's
different programs.
Completely different. And we play so fast.
So fast.
So I totally think I could see. I mean, JMU Duke is going to be a hell of a game.
It's going to be a hell of a game, and I think JMU Wisconsin's going to be a hell of a game.
JMU Wisconsin there's a reason why it's 9:40 on CBS.
Oh yeah, this is the game to watch.
This is the game to watch on that Friday. So be on the lookout. Another team that I don't think anyone's talking about is A&M.
I really like A&M.
Why is no one talking about A&M?
I think that another really good game to watch is Nebraska A&M.
Yes.
They have 2 stars.
Nebraska's ridiculous too. They have Tominaga.
Yeah,
Tominaga, whatever his name is.
He is a killer.
He's awesome.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He's so fun to watch.
And I think this matchup could be really good. I kind of like Texas A&M. I was a little bit off on them coming into the tournament. But they played Florida really well. They beat Kentucky.
Kentucky.
They kind of got blown out by Tennessee, but I mean they split with Tennessee in the season.
Right.
Yeah,
they actually
honestly
they beat Kentucky twice.
Yeah,
which is impressive to begin with.
Yeah.
So I don't know why no one's talking about A&M.
Yeah,
everyone's talking SEC, but no one's talking A&M.
And I think if Houston's gonna get upset, it's with A&M.
It's with A&M.
I think I honestly really like Houston this year, but just their draw is really bad.
It's weird.
They have really interesting teams that they have to play.
Yeah, and it's not Houston teams that they want to play.
No. So
A&M does like to run, and Houston does not like to run.
No.
So that's definitely an interesting one.
Yeah.
Someone that we're not really no one talks about right now is another SEC. Florida.
Yeah, Florida is super interesting to me.
So weird
because I either this is gonna be crazy. I either see them losing the round of 64 or making it super far.
Yeah.
I think that first game, I really like Colorado too.
Me too.
But I think if they can get out of that first game and they start rolling, I really think they can roll all the way through this bracket.
And Florida they're very balanced.
Yeah.
They're good at everything.
Yeah. So, and you look at their side of the bracket up until the Elite Eight, you get in the next round Marquette versus Western Kentucky, who we've already seen that Tyler Kolek is not 100%.
No.
And they're saying that he's practicing, but we all know that could be false.
Yeah. And Marquette looks lost without him.
And they also play a pretty interesting team in Western Kentucky who plays, again, pretty differently than a lot of other teams. So
I actually don't hate Western Kentucky.
No.
They're solid.
And they have pretty decent wins around the tournament. So I mean, we'll see what happens with Western Kentucky. But even if Marquette wins that, Florida is a pretty good program.
I agree. And again, everyone's talking SEC, but no one's talking A&M, and no one's talking Florida.
No, absolutely.
They're pretty much writing them off for some reason. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna move on to frauds because there's a lot of frauds.
There's so many frauds.
We're gonna start with Kentucky. I initially had Kentucky winning the entire thing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna change that entire thing now because I didn't realize they're what.
I think they're 334th. Which, for context, is behind teams like Georgia Southern,
in
St. Louis, Portland, and they're right in front of Buffalo.
Yeah, in scoring defense.
Which I think when people look at Kentucky, they see the 2 stars. They see Reed Sheppard, they see Dillingham, and they're like, "Oh my God, that's a crazy 1-2 punch." But I'm not saying that isn't.
Yes.
But when you look at tournaments and tournament runs, you need a competent offense and defense because if you do not have one, you have very inconsistent games.
You can actually look at every single champion.
Yeah, every single champion has a top. I think it's top 22 offense and top 40 defense.
UConn had it. Even all the Villanova teams. Had it big time. You can keep on going. You can get by with a. You can win a few games, but the problem is consistency. And when you have such a bad defense like that, you're gonna have an inconsistent game where you cannot stop a team. Exactly.
So I really don't like Kentucky this year. I think a lot of people are on them because of the stars, honestly. Yeah. And I just don't see them coming out of this part of the bracket.
I agree. And I think they'll win the first game against Oakland.
I agree.
Oakland's not bad, but Kentucky's just going to run out of this
year. I mean, Kentucky's probably just going to run.
But Kentucky just seems really fraudy. Because, again, I was not on this train until we looked at the stats, and I was like, wait a minute, 300?
Yeah. It's really bad.
I didn't know Portland had a Portland University, or is it a University of Portland?
I didn't even know that existed.
I didn't know that was a thing. Yeah. Another fraud that you're not going to typically think of, NC State. I think.
Yeah.
We talk about this.
I don't know. I look at Cinderella runs.
They can only have
that
it for so
they
long.
Just had, and it's like, are you really gonna have 2 of them? Like, I know that's not even like analysis at that point, but just does not. I just don't see them. And also, Texas Tech is pretty good.
Yeah, people are acting like Texas Tech isn't in one of the best, if not the best conference.
Yeah, like they beat BYU. They beat Kansas by 29.
Yeah.
They lost to Iowa State in a close game.
Yeah.
They beat Baylor. They beat BYU. They just got blown out by Houston. But, I mean, we all seen that Houston's a pretty good program.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're a 1 seed. So, I kind of like Texas Tech in this tournament. And if they can draw Kentucky in the second round, I have them beating Kentucky in the second round.
Yeah, I have to do more research on Texas Tech because I actually do like the matchups coming up.
Yeah.
And then another fraud for me. I don't know about you, but Marquette for me scares me.
Yeah, they scare me a lot.
And we kind of talked about it a little bit, but I don't like Shaka Smart.
I do, but I understand.
He burns me every single year.
He burned me last year.
He burned me for the last 3 years. Like I was like, oh, Kolek's gonna bring him. Oh, Oso's gonna bring him.
Yeah.
Oh, Kolek's gonna never
Never.
does. Or when Marcus Howard was good, I was like, oh, they're a 5 seed. They'll probably make it to Sweet 16, lose first round.
Yeah,
like I just can't do it with Marquette anymore. And we touched on this before, but the oblique injury's a little much for me.
Yeah, especially because he hasn't played the last 6 games. I hadn't even looked into the fact that he wasn't even playing.
They almost lost to Villanova, and Villanova almost lost to DePaul. They didn't make a buzzer beater.
Bad. And
it's bad.
If Kolek's not 100%, that's their team. We gotta be serious about that. And even if he does play, how really healthy is he?
And again, we keep on saying that this is such a weird bracket or region.
Such a weird bracket.
So what? I don't know. So many things could happen in this region. It's so weird.
I think the last team we haven't talked about at this point is Duke.
It's Duke. I was just gonna say.
Which this is the problem with this part of the bracket is I can see Duke losing the first 2 rounds, or I could see Duke going to Final Four. I think if this team gets rolling, they can really get rolling. I mean, the star power on this team is ridiculous. But we've kind of seen throughout the season that they've been a little bit inconsistent. Yeah. But if they can get a hot streak going, they don't have the worst draw. They play a good Vermont team.
Yeah, Vermont's solid.
And they play obviously the winner of Wisconsin JMU. Yeah. But I honestly think if they can make it past the first 2 rounds, they can beat Houston.
I think they have the offense to beat Houston.
I agree.
They actually are the offense that can beat Houston.
They have size. They have they have really.
They have good guards too.
A well-rounded team.
Yeah, Jared McCain's good. Proctor's good.
Yeah, and I really think if they can put it together, which we've seen throughout the season that at times they haven't, but they're getting there.
But they're almost there. And I actually like what's his name, Schreier. I like Schreier a lot. I think he's really good.
Yeah.
And if I'm not gonna lie, if Duke doesn't win it this year, the next 2 years are
oh my gosh, that's gonna be so.
Cooper Flag and other 5-star recruits they have coming in.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
it's gonna be a menace.
That's gonna be crazy.
Who do you have coming out of this bracket?
I'll see. I had Kentucky, but I'm gonna change it. So
yeah, that's the problem.
For me, I think it's either gonna be Duke.
Yeah.
Or Florida. I know that's crazy. But
I think it's either Houston, Duke, or Florida.
That's where I'm at. Yeah.
I would say Houston is my 1 seed that I think might go out the first.
I agree.
Just because of their matchups.
They get screwed every single game.
Year, I know.
Every single game they get screwed. I feel like it's funny.
Yeah, but I don't know. I guess we'll see. This is a very strange part of the bracket.
I feel like this is the one region where you really just can't.
This is the 11 seed that comes out, or the 6 seed that comes out, or the 7 seed that comes out.
For the last one, we could say it was probably
it just seems like such a crazy mix of teams that all have different strengths and weaknesses that could counter each other. It's a very weird bracket that could go a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, moving on.
We'll move on.
Now we're on to the West. The one with if you're following along, it has North Carolina, Arizona. Another interesting region. I wouldn't say it's weird. It's just interesting.
I think there's a lot of upsets that happen in this region personally, but
I would say there's more sleepers and frauds in this one.
Yeah, it's a lot of sleepers and frauds.
Yeah, so I think a good lock though was North Carolina.
Yeah, at least for the first two
rounds. Yeah, because I totally think they're beating whoever wins out of Howard and whatever.
Yeah, they got a pretty good draw, honestly.
Yeah.
You look at the top.
Michigan State is not.
You look at the top half of this bracket. They play the winner of Mississippi State and Michigan State, which
blow them out.
I think they're going to win that pretty easily. And then we go into the next part of the bracket, and
it's funky.
It's funky. I think any 4 of these teams could probably come out of this part of the bracket.
Yeah,
come out of this part of the bracket. Personally, I have St. Mary's.
Yeah, I was going to say we can break down this whole
because this is a good part of the bracket.
This little 4 thing is really
it's crazy.
So we're looking at St. Mary's, Grand Canyon, and Alabama, Charleston.
So first, Grand Canyon has a very good program going. They have a very good offense, and their record's great. It's 29-4.
I actually like GCU. Yeah.
I do too. I just think St. Mary's is pretty good.
St. Mary's is so
a bad draw for them.
Yeah,
it's a pretty bad draw for them.
That's why I'm picking St. Mary's.
So I'm picking St. Mary's.
Yeah.
Just because I think they're consistent. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't see St. Mary's losing to GCU.
And St. Mary's is so weird because they're so good defensively.
So good defensively.
And they're so average offensively. So it really all depends.
Very strange.
It all depends on if St. Mary's can score what? What do you think? More than 60 points?
Yeah,
65
honestly.
points?
Yeah, like if they can get in the 60s to 70s, like,
then they're gonna win.
Probably gonna win.
But they could also have a fucking stinker like they did against Gonzaga when they scored 57 points.
Yeah, like that's my problem. And I think it's the same problem with Iowa State. It's like your defense is so good, but again, it's the teams that are unbalanced that because you're eventually going to have a game where one side of your program is not working how it should. Your offense is going to be slowing down. Your defense is going to be letting up points. So if you don't have a good secondary option where you can lock down a team or you can score to stay up with a team, like it really doesn't bode well for your like success in this tournament.
No, I'm with you. And I think we're gonna say this at the end too, but well actually I'll keep this fan. Yeah. And then the other one is Alabama Charleston.
I just think Alabama are frauds. I think they're the problem of Kentucky times 7.
Yeah, like because they're actually below Kentucky.
They're actually below Kentucky in scoring defense, and they don't even have the stars that Kentucky has.
No, so at least Kentucky can win a few games. Alabama doesn't even have the stars.
Talk about take the over. I don't know what the line is on this game.
Take the over every
I don't know. Take the over.
There will be no defense.
This Charleston team can shoot the lights out of the 3, and this Alabama team is very fast paced. But this is going to be an 100
yes.
game.
And I know what people are thinking. Like everybody took Charleston last year and they lost.
Yeah,
don't think about that.
Agreed. I think the best piece of advice I could possibly give somebody for making a bracket is completely take out what happened the last few years.
Yes.
I saw a stat that literally says it's been analyzed and there's no correlation between what happened last year and what happens this year.
No.
There's no possible correlation of what happens. So, of course, like you look at a team like Purdue, or as we're going to get to, or you look at a team like Arizona who's gotten upset before as the 215.
Mm-hmm.
But it just you have to get it out of your mind of what happened before because that's how you miss the teams that make it to the Final Four.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm probably going to do that with Marquette and have them lose
which
in the second round.
Yeah.
But I agree. Like any trend, you get like all the trends. Are very weird this year.
You gotta dissect them.
Take into account that it's not like the past.
We've never seen anything like this
because in the past few years, and we saw it last year. Then everyone was screwed in like the first day.
Everyone's bracket was immediately.
But usually. It would be like, the top. I would say the top 10. One of the top 10 teams are going to win the whole thing.
Yeah,
it's not like that ever again. It's never going to be like that ever.
This year is very interesting.
The selection committee was so weird.
So weird. There were so many bid stealers.
Yeah.
So a lot of these statistics of like who's making the tournament, who's winning the tournament. If it doesn't have to do with offense or defense or something that happens in the game, I would throw it out.
I agree because anything can happen.
Yeah,
and that's what we saw last year.
This is an unprecedented year, so I don't know. Yeah. We can't look at stats that have happened before and take them into this year, just knowing that this year has already been so different.
I would just be very cautious of what stats you are looking at because these stats can be incredibly skewed, and that's why we're trying to not be biased towards like specific stats.
Yeah.
But we're trying to mainly stay to general offense and general defense because that's all you have to look. Because with the transfer portal. Like this, we're gonna go over Samford in a bit, but like a team like Samford, a team like Charleston, a team like Grand Canyon, a team like JMU, is as good as like a Clemson, is as good as like a Colgate,
especially with the seeding this year.
Yeah, as good as an FAU who's an 8. Like,
because like we'll get to the second part of the and the West.
It gets weirder,
but again, like a team like New Mexico, I think is arguably better than a team like Clemson. Like I think that's not even an argument.
No, like
you're talking about a team in New Mexico is a top. I think it was 22 in KenPom or 21 in KenPom.
Yeah,
a great guard play, super consistent.
Yeah,
and they have good wins on the season. Like we're talking about a really good program, and this the selection committee completely screwed the Mountain West.
Yeah,
you're talking about Utah State, Nevada. New Mexico State, all amazing programs that got pretty screwed by the selection committee.
It screwed everybody, I feel like.
Screwed everybody. So I think they're pretty underseeded.
Yeah.
So I would look at these teams and say, stop looking at the number and look at the team.
I agree. And just to keep it in mind, Ty has, you'll see Oregon going to the Elite Eight, and I
Yeah.
have New Mexico going to the Elite Eight.
Yeah.
Both 11 seeds.
Yeah.
Just because, not because they're seeding, because
Just 'cause of their
how
program.
good they are.
Yeah, like
they're good.
good programs.
Like Jalen House on New Mexico is as good of a guard or / small forward I've seen the whole.
I would say a great term for this is like catfishes. Like you look for the catfish in this tournament. That's a low seed, but shouldn't be. And I think New Mexico fixed that, and we'll get to New Mexico.
Oregon fixed that.
Oregon fixed that, and we'll get to Oregon.
Yeah.
But like in this second part of the West, like we have Nevada and New Mexico, who I genuinely think could make the Sweet 16. Both of them. Like I think we could have a matchup that is New Mexico Nevada.
Yes.
Which would be amazing.
Which would be awesome. But that's 2 Mountain Wests. And, and in conference.
Yeah.
Anything could happen.
Yeah. So we have. I personally have. You have 2. We have New Mexico over Clemson. I think that's pretty.
That's not.
I don't think it's locked, but I think that's a pretty.
I think it's gonna happen.
I think it's gonna happen too.
Clemson's good. Ain't good.
I think Baylor's gonna be Colgate, but another thing with Baylor, it's the same thing as Kentucky, Alabama. They have terrible defense.
They can't.
And I personally am always off of teams with terrible defenses because I genuinely just feel like they never make.
Because the more I think about it, like imagine like you're off shooting.
That's what I'm saying.
You can't hide behind your defense, and you're just gonna get blown out.
And March is a strange, like a March Madness style bracket is a strange place to play basketball. Like it's a weird environment.
Yeah,
there's weird things happen. So you need to have a consistent team to like go on the fly and win these games.
Yep.
And if you are terrible at defense, like that just immediately is a red flag.
You can also put Arizona in a terrible defense too. Arizona is booty cheeks.
Yeah.
They're not good at defense.
Yeah.
Not as bad as the others, but like,
they're definitely better. Like
that's why
there's a difference between a liability and like
not good.
Really not good.
Yeah.
Whereas I would say Arizona's not good, but their offense is amazing, and that they're not so far away where it's going to hinder if they run or not.
Right.
Whereas a team like Kentucky and a team like Baylor, like their defense is so abysmal that it's going to affect a game at some point.
If it's not in the first 2 rounds, then it's definitely you're due.
I think I saw the stat where it was like teams under 150 in defensive rating. Or scoring defense. I think it was one or the other.
Yeah.
Like I think it was like 1 out of 34 have made the Final Four, and I think it was like 4 out of 34 have made the Elite Eight. So it's just like, especially for deep runs, you got to think like you need to be consistent and make deep runs because you have to win 4 or 5 games in a row.
Right.
So if you're not consistent, it's eventually going to come to bite you.
And I agree. And consistency in any sport, that's really all that matters.
Yeah.
We're gonna keep going down this though. Like a Dayton, Nevada, we kind of touched on already, but
again, I think Dayton's way overseeded. They
shouldn't be.
I think they went 5-4 in their last 9 games, which is crazy.
So they're not winning.
Yeah, like they lost to VCU 49-47,
and it's VCU.
And VCU didn't even make the tournament, so
it's pretty weird.
Yeah,
and I would definitely say Nevada's gonna win that. Out west. Let me think. Anyone else?
I would say another upset watch would be Arizona Long Beach State. I think Long Beach State.
I said this earlier. I think I like Long Beach.
I just don't see it. Like this is another thing. I just don't see Arizona losing in the first round again. Like there's no way.
If they lose the first round again,
they're cursed. Yeah. Like again, I don't try to look at previous scores, but if they lose the first round again,
I'm gonna feel the same way with Purdue too.
Come on, yeah.
Yeah.
But again, Arizona's a pretty tough draw.
Yeah.
All things considered. They get Long Beach State, which is a strange program. Again, that you could throw them off.
But they're solid.
Then they get the winner of Dayton, Nevada, which I think if it's Nevada, Nevada's a pretty good program.
And then could be them.
They could get. I had them play at New Mexico, which is also a pretty good program. So they're playing pretty like mid-major teams throughout the whole tournament, which could be good, but also could be terrible.
But at the same time, the Mountain West this year is Mountain West.
But I'm just hoping, praying, wishing, doing everything to get a UNC Arizona Elite 8 matchup. Like
Love versus home.
Oh my God. RJ Davis versus it's RJ Davis, right?
Yeah, RJ Davis
versus Caleb Love in the Elite 8 to make the Final Four. Like, oh my God, you couldn't make the script better. So I'm really hoping and praying. Like I think UNC's gonna get there, but if Arizona can make it there, I think they beat UNC and make the Final Four. And we're gonna get to Purdue. I think if they get rolling, they're gonna roll.
Right, and then actually leading into that, let's just do the Midwest.
Yeah, we can just go straight to the Midwest.
So just he has a whole spiel on Purdue. I'll just let you go because Purdue's interesting to me too.
Purdue obviously has burned everyone. And I had them actually getting upset last year, which I was ecstatic about. I thought they were frauds last year.
I didn't win the whole thing,
but
many did.
Again, I think this is a case of people look at Purdue and they look at the last few tournaments and they're like, they're losing. Which I think is a terrible way to look at that. And you look at this Purdue team, they're the best team we've seen in the last few years. They're solid. Zach Edey, I think, is playing the best that he's played in college, and this is his senior season.
Yeah,
his jersey just got retired. Like, this is his legacy we're talking about.
Yeah.
So if he's gonna lose in the first few rounds like that, he's going to be known as that person,
as a choker.
Like, if he doesn't switch this narrative, like, that's the narrative, and there's nothing he can do about it. So I really like. I don't think they're losing 116. I think there's no possibility that happens, especially with their draw.
No, it's awful.
I get worried about the 8-9 because I honestly really like them out west. I think Utah State's a pretty good program, and I think they're going to beat TCU. But I think it's like Arizona. I think if they get rolling, because they haven't really got rolling the past few tournaments. I think they lost Sweet 16. Sweet 16, and then they got first rounded.
Yes.
So, like, I really think if they get rolling, like, they're gonna roll. Like, if they get deep in this tournament, I don't see a team that can really stop Edey. And we saw that with FDU, but again, that's the first game of the tournament. Like, you got to think, all these teams are coming in like cold, basically. They haven't played in a week. Like, you see this Purdue team, and like, if they get rolling, they get rolling.
And that's what the first weekend, probably the scariest weekend, because everyone's coming in at the same pace. No one's hotter than anybody else.
Exactly.
Like maybe like Auburn might be
like
hotter.
NC State.
Yeah, or they might be hotter, but like
that also could work against them.
Yeah, and they could think that they're better than they actually are.
Or they're tired, or they're injured, something like that.
But for the most part, everyone's coming in with a clean slate, just play basketball. And win. That's very much
and lives are on the line.
Yes.
So,
and Zach Edey isn't just playing for his legacy at Purdue; he's playing for like his NBA
draft stock.
Yeah, because right now he's a late second rounder.
Especially because he has never shown good competition in the biggest part of the year.
Yeah,
and especially like a guy like Zach Edey who doesn't really have a bag. Like he's a tall man.
He's Zach Edey
who's started to grow his other parts of the game. But like you're not looking at Zach Edey for like his passing ability or like his 3-point shooting.
Yeah,
like
he's
a tall guy who can put it in the basket, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But like if he can start to show that he's not just that guy and can actually contribute to a winning team. That could
be nice.
Increase his draft stock, which is huge.
Exactly. And Purdue, for me, I actually feel the same way as you. I think Purdue's pretty good.
Yeah.
And Purdue's so weird because when you do look at the statistic, it's every single year they're good in every statistic.
Yeah.
And then they lose.
That's
and that's why Purdue is just so hard to pick.
Yeah.
Because that's just how they are.
But you got to also think like now they've seen it different 3 times. Like you got to think they're dying to just make a run. Like, this is it. After Edey goes, like, what are we doing?
They're going to be not good again.
That's what I'm saying. So this is like we talk about, like, in the NFL with, like, the Rams. That was their year. Like, I think the Eagles this year, like, that's their year to win. Like, this is Purdue's year to win, and if not, like, throw in the towel.
I'm with you. So I think this next 4 here is probably the most interesting 4 in the entire bracket. So I'll read it first, and then funny, ours is completely flipped. And so we'll give our both sides.
Yeah.
Gonzaga, McNeese, Kansas, Stanford. You go first.
So I think genuinely it's like all these teams. We have 4 teams, right? Like 25%, 25%, 25%, 25% to make the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
Like this is like
this is crazy.
Not to like make a pun, but like this is like a dogfight.
No, it is.
We have Gonzaga and Stanford in the bracket. But the first game, Gonzaga McNeese, I just really, everyone loves McNeese.
I love McNeese.
I love McNeese too, but it's Gonzaga, and they're a tournament tested team. They've lost guys, but the program's tournament tested, and I really would be surprised if Gonzaga lost. I think they're I could be wrong about this, but I think they're very good at not turning the ball over too.
They are. Yeah, they're one of the more...
Which is a great sign for March.
Just a great sign.
And they have a win against Kentucky. They have a win against St. Mary's. They lost St. Mary's in the tournament, but I really like this Gonzaga team. I don't think they're going to go so far, but they're my winner for this this little chunk of the bracket.
Yeah.
And then I have Sanford upsetting Kansas, which is one of the bigger upsets. I actually have 213s in my bracket.
So do I.
But this Kansas team is just banged up, and I do not like rooting on teams that are banged up. Like you talk about Hunter Dickinson out, like he'll play, but banged up. Another one of their stars I think was also banged up. Like it's just not a good sign for your team to be banged up because you need to be focusing on winning games, not if your players are healthy. And if you don't know who your personnel is, how can you really like fully plan for games?
And Hunter Dickinson is not just like a little part of their offense.
No, that's their offense.
He is their offense. No, and so I'm completely flipped. I don't think Gonzaga's. I think they're good.
Yeah,
I think they're good. And the funny thing is, as all the brackets, like anything can happen here. Like this is just hypothetical, but Gonzaga plays about 6 or 7 guys total.
Oh, great.
So when I think the game versus McNeese is going to be like a shootout because
I agree.
McNeese is deep. McNeese is one of the better 3-point shooters.
Yeah,
they have 4 guys averaging in double figures, and they just ran through their bracket.
I think the winner of that game goes to the Sweet 16.
I think so too, and I picked Kansas for now, but the more I think about it, the more I'm liking Sanford. Imagine we get a Sanford McNeese run of 20 30. That'd be so funny.
That would be hilarious. To play the winner of Purdue.
To play Purdue.
Probably. Yeah. I don't want to put that out there.
Right. But I mean, I personally have McNeese going to the Sweet 16. But
yeah,
but the weird thing is with these 4, it could literally be any of them. Maybe less so Kansas, but the 3 of them, it could be like any.
No, honestly.
And I just am not a big fan of Gonzaga because Mark Few scares me. Similar to Shaq Smart or whatever. Yeah. He just scares me in that like.
No, Gonzaga's Mark scares me too.
He's fraudy and he scares me. But that 4 is the most interesting 4 in my opinion.
Oh, great!
The entire bracket because you could literally pick anybody.
Yeah.
So moving on from that, the next 4 are pretty interesting too.
This part of the bracket's a heater.
Yeah. Like, so this is my favorite region because you could literally have freaking Oregon or Creighton. You can easily have like South Carolina.
This part of the bracket is a dogfight.
I really don't know who to pick. So
we can start with this first game. I think this is another like top 3 games of the tournament for this first round.
Yes.
This South Carolina team is good. Like they are good. They're 26-7. They have good wins.
They have great wins.
Like they beat Tennessee. They beat Kentucky. They beat Florida. They beat Mississippi State. They obviously lost to Auburn in the tournament, but we saw Auburn was on another level for the tournament. So, like, this South Carolina team is not a pushover, and this Oregon team is something different.
I agree.
I think we've seen, like, they won the tournament in the Pac-12. They started out horrendously.
And I know I'm not going to go based off this, but with the Pac-12 leaving, and you saw Washington in the national championship in football.
Yeah.
Imagine you have another Pac-12 team in Oregon making a statement like that. F you.
It'd be great.
I'm kind of rooting.
I think the winner of this, like personally, I think the winner of this game it could make a huge run. Like whoever it is.
USC's good dude. Like
honestly, whoever comes out of this 4. Like we can also talk about the next game. Let's do
it. Yeah, Creighton. Creighton's one of my favorites just because I'm a big East guy. That's a lot of sports.
Yeah,
I'm a big East guy. I can just keep on saying it, but I love Creighton, and I think Kalkbrenner is really good. That team is not much different from last year when they made that run.
Yeah.
I love Greg Mitzer. I think that's his name. Their coach.
Yeah.
Like they're just good.
The
only thing that scares me is like a streak that I'm really trying not to think about is you know what I'm gonna say.
Yeah,
it's the if you lose in the first round of your conference tournament, then no one makes a Sweet 16.
Yeah, apparently like you just have no chance to win the
whole thing.
Anything. Which is also like
I get
really,
it.
Like are we really putting that into like consideration?
Please don't.
But like
but I do like Creighton again. And they were kind of Cinderella-ish last year.
Yeah, they were.
So
which also
could do it.
It scares me a little bit. I like
me too. No,
going on 2 runs like is impossible.
And we were mentioning that with NC State.
So hard.
And
like it's just
Illinois.
So
and
tough.
It's just hard.
So like personally, like I like another huge team in this bracket is Tennessee.
Yes.
Another Tennessee, just like not my favorite team. I just really think they have one guy. It's
Dalton Connect.
It's Dalton Connect.
So good. I think he's best player in the country.
Yeah,
I know that's a hot take, but I think he's so good.
But
that's it, and they can't play defense. So if Dalton Connect,
so bad,
and if those two things don't happen, and Dalton Connect
doesn't literally carry this whole team. In March, it's very hard to carry a team.
You really hardly ever see it, other than Buddy Hield, and he's not
exactly.
If Dalton Connect scores under 20 points and they continue to play shit defense, I don't see this winning any games.
Yeah, I can see them making past the first two because I really think they got a pretty light draw.
St. Peter's is good, but they don't have Doug. And Texas is good, but they're Texas,
and they're gonna have Texas gonna have an easy game. I really don't see UVA. Okay, I'm a UVA hater.
Me too.
We hate UVA. Yeah. But I really don't see UVA, the winner of UVA or Colorado State, making it past.
UVA plays so slow. UVA plays too good of defense that they're so tired on offense. Do you notice that? They're so tired on offense from playing great defense.
And this is going to be hypocritical, but talk about past experiences.
No, I know.
It's either they go to the Natty or they bust.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. But Ty and I'm back and forth between this, but we either have Oregon or Creighton.
I think that's it.
Tennessee.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
To make it to the Elite Eight, it's going to be the winner of that round of 32 game. Yeah. That's my prediction. I don't know who it is. It could be South Carolina, it could be Oregon, or it could be Creighton. That's 3 teams. I think they go to play Purdue.
I completely agree. And then that game is going to be ridiculous. Purdue,
God.
Oregon, Purdue. Dude, Purdue Creighton with Kalkbrenner and
Edie. Oh my gosh.
I might pick that for
Talk about script writers.
I might pick that for the script
writers. I actually might change mine.
That is ridiculous.
Because right now I do have Oregon going to the Elite Eight.
And I have Creighton, so it's the same thing.
Yeah. So I guess we'll see. That could definitely change before the tournament. But I think it's those 3 teams who can make it to the Elite Eight from that bracket.
Wow, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of it like that. Kalkbrenner Edie would be so good.
Which the problem is for everyone who's playing March Madness in the bracket style. If you don't pick the right one, you're screwed. It's the round of 32.
Yeah, exactly.
If you don't pick the correct round of 32 matchup, I don't think you're getting until that one Elite Eight team.
Exactly. So that's pretty much the whole bracket. But we can go to the Final Four too. Yes, I think we should do Final Fours for both of us, and then we could pick our favorite sleeper.
Love it.
Our favorite fraud.
Cinderellas.
Cinderellas. Yeah, and that's what we could do. But we're gonna start with the Final Four. You can go first.
Okay, so my Final Four currently, again, this could definitely change.
These are all fluid.
I've been changing my bracket literally every day.
Everything we're about to say.
I personally, I don't see UConn not making the final. Obviously, I think they're going to make the Final Four. And from there, I think they're making the final. This UConn team is so consistent. Yeah. That's what I just love to see in the tournament is consistent teams because they could always play a good game. They're always going to play a good game. They're never going to get blown out. It's such a good, seeing such a consistent team. And I think, personally, I have been playing Arizona. I think Arizona is definitely I don't want to say they're better than UNC, but I think UNC is definitely there's a top 3 1 seeds, and then there's UNC.
I'm with you.
And I just do not like how they played against NC State. I don't really like how they've just shown. I don't really like who's on their team. I don't really like NC State. Not NC State. UNC.
No,
so I do think Arizona makes it to the Final Four. I think UConn beats them, but that's a good game. That's a great game. And if Arizona gets rolling, there's really no stopping Arizona other than UConn. Right?
Because UConn's UConn.
We're putting UConn on the final. And then the next game, I actually have Florida. This is the problem with that. It's the South, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's we saw I think it was a 5-5, 9-8, right? Were the seeds. And obviously that's not usually how it goes. It's usually a 1, a 2, a 4, and a 7 or whatever. But I think that higher seed is coming from that part of the bracket.
Right.
If any part of the bracket was going to have a team, it's either going to be that one or the bottom West with UNC and Arizona.
Yeah.
So I put Florida in there for now. The only thing that worries me about Florida is that first matchup, which is horrendous. For a betting man.
Yeah.
Because I think Colorado could have a good chance against them.
Colorado's good.
But you look at their run right now. I have them playing against Marquette. I think they're beating Marquette. I have them playing against Texas Tech, who's good, but
I think they're beating
Texas Tech. They lost to an Auburn team when they also got injured mid-game. That's definitely a like that guy got like his leg snapped.
Yeah, so
in mid game. So like
it's a lot
that's
for morale.
pretty
It's a lot.
terrible on the morale. And you got to think like that team's hyped up. Like they're ready to win.
They're angry. Yeah.
They're angry. They're ready to win. So I think they could definitely come out of that bracket. And I have them playing against Purdue. And I think genuinely, if Purdue making the Final Four, I don't see somebody stopping Purdue that's not named UConn.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm putting Purdue in the final two, which seems crazy as we looked at the past few years because Purdue has been horrendous. But I don't know. It just seems like their time.
Funny. I agree.
And I think a UConn Purdue final,
be ridiculous.
Like that's like Caitlin Clark against South Carolina. Yeah. Like that's what we're talking about right now. That would be like a crazy matchup.
That's another battle with the big men too. It's Donovan Clingan versus Zach Edey.
Talk about a great imagine if Purdue plays Creighton. They go Creighton, Florida, UConn.
Yeah, it's pretty
great games. Like these are amazing games.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just think if Edey's there, I know it's like UConn is the favorite.
Yeah, like
so there's no way I couldn't put them in the Final Four, if not the Final Two, especially with the bracket.
Right.
I don't know. There's just something about this Purdue team that just gives me that feeling that there's like, this is it. And especially like I'm all on the vibes. I'm all on mojo, and usually it sometimes works out for me. And just like the vibes on Purdue, like everyone around them is clowning them.
Yeah, and they're angry.
Everyone is saying like they're frauds now. I think they just like they're like just fuck you, and they win the tournament. Nobody has them winning it, and they just are like, well, there you go, your bracket's busted.
It reminds me of when UVA lost in the first round. Same thing. Everyone was like, "Oh, UVA sucks."
Yeah, and then they
Tony
won.
Bennett sucks, and then they won the next year.
And then they won.
It's very similar to like that.
Yeah. So that's what I'm predicting.
So mine's a little different than that. Obviously, we have UConn. I think that's going to be a consensus.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good consensus.
I like UNC because of the balance thing that we've been talking about.
Yeah, they're definitely balanced.
And I love balanced teams. That's what
I do too.
And as I'm saying that, I look at myself having Kentucky in there. But Kentucky, you're again going on with vibes.
It's vibes. I agree. It's a straight vibes pick.
It's such a vibes pick, and it's totally going to change.
Talk about script writers. Like Dillingham and Shepard in the oh my god, racket in the Bucks.
And then I also have so we were talking about this. I do have Kalkbrenner versus Edey in that Elite Eight. You have Purdue winning. I have Creighton winning because I think they can shoot a little better. That's my only reason. And then my final game is UConn Kentucky, and I have Kentucky, and then because vibes.
It's straight vibes.
But I'm going to tell you this right now. That's going to change because I haven't looked at this since 11 a.m. and everything I've heard him say and everyone else say on everything.
I have no life, so I just like watch TikToks and YouTube and listen religiously.
It might change to be honest with you to UNC because I am in love with UNC. I think they're awesome.
I do like UNC. I mean, I don't like them as a team, but
but it's funny. I have Purdue versus McNeese eventually.
That's great,
and that is a crazy.
That's amazing
because it's two completely different teams, and I like it. But yeah, right now I have Kentucky, but that's probably gonna change to either UNC or UConn. I think at least the winner of that. And also that I think everyone's gonna have a different pick for that region. I think it's the West region over there.
Yeah.
With Houston. Because I don't have Houston, but I'm not gonna have Marquette, and I'm not gonna have Duke. So like I don't know who to pick.
Yeah.
It could be JMU for all we know. So I mean, who knows?
JMU to the Natty.
JMU to the Natty, and then we're going to the game. So
we're going.
We're going.
I'm flying.
I'm paying thousands.
My life savings.
Yeah. We're going. But yeah, and then who is your favorite Cinderella?
Okay, I got a few. I think this is the problem.
Let's pick two.
We'll pick two. Okay. I'm gonna go first with. I think this is pretty obvious. Like this is a pretty good one. I think this is yours too.
This is mine.
New Mexico. Yeah. I think if they don't play Arizona, they make the Elite Eight, and they play probably UNC. I do like UNC, but I don't know. There's something about this team that I just don't see.
Yeah. No. They it's their bench.
I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I don't really like Baycott. I don't really like RJ Davis. I just don't like people.
It's funny with UNC. I actually like their top three. I like Davis. I like Cormac Ryan. And I like Baycott.
Yeah,
but I hate their bench. I don't think their bench is that good.
Something about them. That team is just ick.
I agree with you. Another one for you. Do you want to pick one more?
Yeah, I'll pick BYU to make it to the Elite Eight.
I like it. I'm gonna pick New Mexico. I'm actually very close. So this is a hot take. This is the hottest take, but this is why we have a podcast.
Yeah, I love it.
Low key. Winner of UNC New Mexico might make the national championship.
I love it.
I'm not gonna lie.
I love it
because I love New Mexico. That's mine. Like that.
Yeah.
That has been mine. I knew they were gonna win their conference, and I was like, you know what? They might win the entire.
Their guards are so.
Their guards are so good, and they're so good defensively, but they can also score at a great clip. Jalen House might be one of the best. He's very similar to like I don't know, like I feel like every year you have that one random guard that comes out and then not
buckets.
Not Doug Eder is one of them, but like he's better than Doug Eder. Like,
well, yeah, obviously.
It's like I just think New Mexico might make that Final Four. It might make the national championship. Yeah. Because imagine New Mexico versus UConn.
Right.
Everyone's rooting for New Mexico.
Yeah.
I think a second one. Let me look at my list. I love
as you're looking. I also forgot Florida. I literally have Florida in my Final Four. But my problem with Florida is if they don't make it past the first game, they could not make it past the first game, or they could go all the way.
Yeah, and I think my second one is McNeese because they can just shoot the lights out. And I've watched it. I'm a Villanova fan. I've watched it. When your team can effing shoot, they can shoot.
It's the best.
There's that 2018 and 16 Villanova team was the greatest shooting team I've ever seen. And they did not shoot.
Lights out.
They actually broke the record for the amount of threes against Kansas in 2018, which was then eventually broken by Kansas against them. So
which is hilarious.
Pretty funny. But but when you're hot, and McNeese is hotter than anybody else.
Hotter than hot.
So that's definitely my Cinderella. We've kind of did all of our frauds, right? I mean,
you have like a big fraud. Like who's getting upset out of the ones and the twos? Because there's one.
Arizona.
Okay, I'm gonna go.
I like Long Beach.
I'm gonna go funny because I'm a New Jersey boy.
Yes.
I think maybe Tennessee. St. Peter's always has that little
they got
little spark.
They got some.
But yeah, I think it's either probably Tennessee or Houston.
I don't
really see a 1 or 2 losing.
I don't either.
But okay, another one. I'll go Illinois versus Morehead State, which is hilarious.
I like that.
But everyone loves Morehead State because of the name, obviously.
Obviously.
But I just really don't like Illinois. I know they just won the tournament.
They're
I just don't really like Illinois. I don't like their star. I really like them. So we're gonna go Morehead, and I think Morehead's pretty underrated. They're pretty underratedly okay.
I actually like that a lot.
We'll go there.
I'm just gonna stick with the Long Beach State because I am this year's so weird that like anything we could say could be completely right. Anything that we could say is completely right, or everything that we're saying right now is completely wrong, and we could have a 1-1-1-1.
Yep.
So we're not really sure what's gonna happen. We could just pull a Shannon Sharp and pick all ones, but we want to do different.
Yeah, it's so not fun. Like if you're playing for money, maybe just pick the favorites. But it's so not fun
if you want to have fun,
picking the favorite. Like we're some Cinderellas.
Like we're in a league with what $5 buy-ins.
Yeah,
so we're just picking one.
Flying, let them fly. Because there's no better feeling than when it hits. Oh my god! You feel like an oracle.
I picked Furman last year against UVA.
I had Miami,
and you had Miami, and it was a great feeling. And I put money on Furman too, and I won like $12 off of $8.
We're rich. You're rich now.
We're up. We're racking it in. But yeah, so that is gonna conclude it.
Yeah,
I think that's
great.
So that's going to conclude our March Madness special. Thank you all so much for watching. Caleb and I might do a Phillies one because Ukraine's coming up.
Thank you so much for having me
on.
Yes,
thank you, Ty. Thank you everybody for watching. Check us out on all of our social media.
Don't like the TikToks.
The TikToks are going off right now. I'm trying to stir the pot a little bit. I did put Purdue in the frauds, and I love stirring the pot.
You gotta stir it up a little bit.
And thank you for the love on the last one. I'm at 84K views, which is a big one.
Yeah.
So thank you all so much for watching, and we'll catch you possibly next week
Peace.
or in a few days. So
yeah,
see you later.
See ya. Peace.